a song line, as you might know, from Elvis Presley, and I've modified it a little. And let's see whether we can do philosophy together. Thanks for this one. And we are very close to the start. For the start, please consider, go on a little bit. Just up, please. I want to talk about philodrama in philosophical practice, but if I have a little help from my friends here, we could even make a workshop in that direction. I just want to express that I'm dedicating this to the pioneer of dramatic practical philosophy, or drama in philosophical practice. That is Narelle Archidiacono. Hey, Nelly. And I want to say, thank you, that's good, yeah. Drama happens at the beginning of the European philosophical tradition. The death of Socrates is the kernel of a tragedy, and the comedy of Aristophanes, The Clouds, starring the philosopher, is a stepping stone to it. Now, if you go back to the picture, please. Yes. I propose the format of philodrama, same as Nelly did before. We haven't had a chance to see each other performing our bits, but we'll probably have one if the virus allows that she is visiting her German relatives quite nearby here at the Lake of Constance. I propose this to reliquify philosophy, its history primarily as a collection of written texts, in shared philosophizing. And the example I can show a little bit of is what I did with German colleagues. Again, the language is in German. It was an educational session of the philosophical practitioners, and they had engaged a professional photographer, Jean Magrin, and he observed through the lens of his video camera us trying to get started, and he directed our setup so that everyone playing a role was in the picture. Go on in the text a little bit, dear Regina. Just a little more. Yes, thank you. It is clearly visible in the first part of the video, which I'll skip. Setting the stage and recruiting participants go hand in hand. The cameraman gives the signal, and the philodrama with Socrates begins freestyle, transcribed and translated here, with slight changes. There are 3 minutes of recorded 8.5. I read out the English as I reckon that most of you will not understand the German. You can see it here. Thank you, Regina. Crito to Socrates, flee while there is still time. And Socrates, in a firm voice, we are in no hurry. Thank you that we weren't in a hurry here. Look, here is the cup. The Athenians want me to leave this life. And Crito shyly, but you know, you still have a chance. Socrates, the chance to drink this cup. That is the law. But your fellow citizens, they still need you. We need you, alive. Socrates, You have listened to me a lot, O Creton. Did I not say that one must think of one's own soul to strive for a good life? Think of yourself, of your soul. O Socrates, but there is the last possibility. Sure, the law speaks for you and against you, but we need you here in Athens and alive. O friends, why did I send away this Xantippe and my son, that we might not complain, but philosophize to the very end? Only now I understand you. We understand you, Socrates. O Creton, I know we are friends and fellow philosophers. I might skip the bit that's coming, and I just ask you, please play the Philodrama video, dear Regina, with this link here. Yeah.
The Steam?
Yes, I think so.
Steam, okay.
Works.
This one, yes?
Yes, it is this one, but you can move on.
Also, heute geht es um Philodrama und philosophische Anthropologie. Bildernde Kunst, Literatur, Theologie.
Move on where?
Move on until you see us playing the Philodrama.
Philosophie, anthropologisches Lernen. Mit Sicherheit seit der
Just go on.
Doppelbestimmung
Move on.
im Leben. Dramatisch.
Yes.
This one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Da hinten steht doch einer an der Wand.
Da ist ein Durchgang zu sehen. Auf dem Durchgang führen die Leute des Kriton die Xantippe und den Sohn, den gemeinsamen mit Sokrates, hinaus. Das muss man wissen.
Welches ist der hintere, ist der Sohn, ne? Oder?
Ja, das wirst du das
And
Sohn
you
sein.
might still move on a bit, Miss Regina.
Was?
That is getting ready.
Rechts, dann bist du aus dem Bild.
Now it's hot.
Im Bild.
Creton
Könnte doch
touches
jemand das Bild wegtun da unten?
Socrates.
Das da.
Nee, das ist okay, das da. Ja. Okay.
The cameraman gives
1, 2,
instructions.
3, go.
Here we are.
Kriton. Was sagst du mir? Fliehen soll ich?
Flieh, solange Zeit ist.
Wir sind nicht in Eile. Sieh, hier ist der Becher. Die Athener wollen, dass ich aus diesem Leben gehe.
Aber du weißt, du hast noch eine Möglichkeit.
Die Möglichkeit, diesen Becher zu trinken. So will es das Gesetz.
Aber deine Mitbürger, sie brauchen dich noch.
Du hast mir viel zugehört, O Kreton. Sagte ich nicht, man müsse an die eigene Seele denken, sich bemühen um ein gutes Leben? Denke an dich.
O Sokrates, überlege, es ist die letzte Möglichkeit. Sicher, das Gesetz spricht für dich und gegen dich. Aber, Sokrates, wir brauchen dich hier in Athen noch länger.
O Freunde, Warum habe ich weggeschickt? Diese Xantippe und meinen Sohn, dass nicht geklagt wird, sondern dass wir philosophieren können.
Jetzt erst verstehe ich dich. Oh, Sokrates.
Oh, Kriton, ich wusste, wir sind Freunde.
We could stop here.
Wird mir schwer.
Thank you, Regina. Questions, or shall we move on? Because now we're trying to do a life experience between Russia, New South Wales in Australia, and the Lake of Constance. Everyone ready? Got your classes, mates?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Oh, that's good. Ha. Let's take a drink first. Neil is in the role of a later professor of sociology, Raymond Aron. Regina is nicely in the role of Simone de Beauvoir, which all of us estimate. So there's just one role for me in the regie, and I'll play and talk very little as Sartre. We are trying to reenact an early move towards existentialist philosophy in this workshop here. And I say one more time, santé.
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 There.
And welcome at the Existentialist Café Philo. Enjoy and do philosophy. Move on a bit, Regina. Yes, thank you. That's it. Let the three of us first do a round without interruption, and then people who dare can move in. And Neil informed me that he won't stick to the script, and that's all right with me. But in my double role as Sartre and Regisseur, I will probably do this one and ask Neil to stop raving and let Simone in. Please start, Aaron.
Okay. So we're talking about what phenomenological description is. It's a description of situations, things, and events as phenomena, recognizing that perceptions are always of something, and this requires conscious perceivers. Posit anything in a context which clarifies its existence as a phenomenon. A glass of liqueur becomes a carrier of symbolism as an interpersonal meaning. Santé.
Santé.
And the German phenomenologists?
Yeah,
Okay.
Aaron. What do you say
Yeah.
about those?
The German phenomenologists, we're talking about Husserl.
Yeah.
And Husserl, as a German phenomenologist, used philosophical description, phenomenological description to show to try to look at situations without the unnecessary baggage attached to them. So to try and see something exactly as it is. This, however, is quite a difficult thing to do because everything we do, we see as phenomena.
Well, Simone and I also sneaked a little bit into Sartre, into Heidegger, and we have the impression that the object of phenomenology is life itself.
Yeah, phenomenology tells us about life. It takes us to a different perspective as normal materialism. Instead of being oriented to the things out there, it's oriented to your perception of them. It looks at phenomena rather than the things. The things are seen as being part of our phenomena. They're essentially part of us.
Well, what's left out from the philosophical tradition?
Really, what's left out is the dualism. The dualism which is sees that there are objects out there independently of the perception which we have of them. So we just get one level of life, really. Essentially, the level of life is the that which we see and our own lives, rather than the level of existing objects independent of us. So it says that the objects are nothing but made by our thoughts. In short, if you look at a perceptual process, you can see that the sense data which come in are quite limited. We see things as that which we make out of sense data.
So, as phenomenologists, dear friends, Simon.
Oh, sorry. For example,
We might think about our apricot cocktails, can't we? And make practical philosophy out of it. Cheers. Santé.
Okay.
I would like to break here and have a bit of a discussion. My point would be that in the middle of the night, Neil Horn tried to do what he was thinking the day before when he was in a good shape. And here, I had the impression it would have been not bad if he would have performed closer to the script. What do you think about it?
I agree, yeah.
Okay. Makes it difficult for your co-players when the words that are kind of prompting our coming in the dialogue are not in what you say.
Mm.
All right. Having done this, I would ask the three of us just to do the thing again a second time. I found out that repetition is indeed a good thing to change things which have been described by having another look on it. Aaron.
Okay, I agree. That's a very good idea.
Aaron, speak your text, please.
Where is my text? I can't see the text.
The text is here on the screen.
Okay, all right. Up to now, philosophers have put forward abstract theories.
Beauvoir.
And the German phenomenologists?
For phenomenologists, the object of philosophy is life itself.
As we live it?
Moment by moment.
Santé! Oops, wrong glass.
In the process, phenomenological reduction, Husserl, fades out what philosophical questions and answers have been since Plato.
For example?
Whether things are real, whether we have certain knowledge of everything, of anything.
And what is philosophized about instead?
We humans have always been thrown into a world in which many things appear to us, the phenomena. Let us look at what presents itself to us and describe it as precisely as possible. So as phenomenologists,
Brother?
We might think about our apricot cocktails.
Oh, good idea. Make philosophical practice about it, and out of it, and with it. All tradition, symposium, corporal actions. Here we go.
oh,
Thank you. A German version of this is printed below. We are celebrating in my German Sinnpraxis after a long time of being hiding away, the first live coming together in Sinnpraxis, and this book of Sarah Bakewell at the Existentialist Cafe has this cover, which brought us to the idea to do a philodrama on it. Sarah Bakewell introduces Aaron's words with, Aaron may have been saying something like this, thereby encouraging a performing more or less freestyle. In Beauvoir, there is only this sentence. Tu vois, si tu es phénoménologue, tu peux parler de ces cocktails et c'est de la philosophie. You see, if you are a phenomenologist, you can talk about this cocktail, and that's philosophy. A similar account is given by Wolfram Eilenberger, who wrote the book The Fire of Freedom, which we had dealt with in our theory group in the philosophical practice. I propose that we skip that bit because much of it was already pointed out by Neil in the first round, as you can see. Now there would be the question. We are more or less 4 people now. Am I right? Or are there more about it in the background? Probably most have gone. And so I'll probably simply go on telling you more about the points that have been announced for the workshop, what we did, and so on. And one of the next things, of course, is, will you please go on a little bit? Yes, before we come now together for the first time, as I said, live after Corona lockdown. We had only contacts online. We may just go quickly over what happened there. If you go on a little bit, you'll see, stop please. The situation was like that. The garden benches filled slowly with the participants of our Sinnpraxis meeting. I came a little earlier, and having a look at the premises, I found that the chairs 1, 2, 3 should be used by Aron, Beauvoir, and Sartre. And I, of course, had to find people who were fitting into these rules. When Klaus arrived at our host's garden, I asked him to act as Aron and sit on chair 1. He found the script. The script now, of course, is in German, but you know what it's about. Abstract theories, what about German phenomenologists, and then life itself is the topic of philosophy. Santé. We do a lot of santé here. I will not show the video which exists and which made me gave me the position to report about it very closely to what had happened. Then Christine, my colleague in Synpraxis, came to position 2, and she acted as Simone de Beauvoir. Go on. Please go on, Regina. And stop. A.K. for Aaron, played by Klaus. Ja, mein lieber Freund, mon petit camarade. And I say, ah, oui, Raimondo, in the position of Sartre. If you are a phenomenologist and he has problems articulating this difficult word, I say, yeah, then we could now lift up our glasses and make Prosit on those phenomena. So you see, he is very much in loose mode, freestyle. And I, in my double function as being in the regie and responsible, so to speak, and also Sartre, mein Lieber, bis jetzt haben die Philosophen abstrakte Theorien aufgestellt. My good friend, up to now, philosophers have just articulated abstract theories. And he, with nodding his head, sagt Aaron. So he's giving the turn back to Klaus in the role of Aaron. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Go on. And now comes Simon and the German phenomenologists and Aaron, phenomenologist, for them, the object of philosophy. And he moves his glass towards Sartre, is life itself. Let's drink to that. And Sartre, of course, santé. We can't here do this one, so I symbolically, all the three are drinking. And of course, there's some rumor in the group. And Klaus falling out of his role, he's no longer Aaron, but Klaus. Now I understand Sartre. We know Sartre was a bit of a heavy drinker, and you being enthusiastic about it, and he was pointing to me, I also drink. Says Klaus, what a phenomenon. The word will not leave my tongue now. And Sartre, die Philosophie behandelt das Leben selbst. Philosophy deals with life itself. But how? And now, coming back to the role as Neil did, moment by moment. And again, santé. There's some rumor in the group, and Klaus said, oh, we just nip a bit from it. We don't drink. And birds are making themselves heard from the nearby forest, and a mobile telephone rings. But Klaus is not disturbed at all, and he gives the bit on the phenomenological reduction, despite all that things that would kind of make him pause. And he said, well, all these questions and also answers from Platon's time on. Also here he has a nice original variation and standard text. For example, says Sartre, and Klaus says Aaron, whether things are real, whether we have a certain knowledge, something I don't understand. Beauvoir, what about is philosophized instead? And then the bit that hasn't been used as far as I see, that comes not from Husserl, but from Heidegger. We are thrown into the world. Now comes a fellow who was a colleague at the university, Carlo. Hallo, spät bin ich da. Hello, I'm late. He's always late. And again, Klaus, he's not disturbed. We are thrown into the world in which many phenomena, many things appear. We look, and that is ambiguous. He is looking into my face. We look at what is presenting itself to us, and we describe it as precisely as possible, as Phänomenologen. And Beauvoir, also könnten wir auch über unsere Aprikosencocktails philosophieren und nachdenken. So we also could philosophize about or on our apricot cocktails. And then that is a special word in German, und nachdenken. So we think after something has happened, nach is after, and but it also means we do a bit of more thinking than is done in the everyday world. And Klaus, oh yes, absolutely. And again, all the three lift up their glasses, they bounce them together, and it makes a good sound, and the drink. And now Mike, he has still his glass in the hand, but he turns away from the co-players and addresses the whole group, and they all lift glasses. It is a summer day, a summer evening of the best kind. We missed all that, and the hospitality, the social atmosphere, the real life, so to speak. And wholeheartedly, we say santé. This was, again, same as we experienced it here in the online version, a very free way of talking first together. And so after this free way of coming, dealing with the script, we had a second go, and the two figures of Aaron and Beauvoir were played by different persons now. So Klaus left the stage, and also Christina, and here we are. And what they did then is something which I will simply go about shortly. Up to now, philosophers have put up abstract theories. And now Marianne, in the role of Beauvoir, she looks at me instead of looking at Aaron. That's a young teacher, and she's more familiar with me than with this young man. And she says, and the German phenomenologists, with moving my head like this, I didn't say anything, but gave the turn back to the person addressed, Aaron, played by Tillman. For the German phenomenologist, the object of philosophy is life itself. So he has the text next to him. He can keep an eye on it. And in the video, it's not so visible, but as a participant, we know. And Sartre, I, in this position, say, as we live our life. So, and that goes to the end. In this second round, as we had it here, we perform pretty close to the script. Just my comment, the both things I think are quite interesting, and it's, if people go into it, very interesting to see such a play in different rounds. That's just on the first level of bringing that into life, what the tradition of philosophy has presented to us in a collection of text. But, of course, there are other ways. Now we, of course, in the case of Socrates, it was Ora who in another workshop said, oh, if he would have come, I exaggerate a little bit, to my philosophical practice, I would have told this old Socrates, don't commit suicide. You must go on living. And if he listened to her, it would have been, thank you, Regina, that's a good place. It would have been good for him and for Athens, and maybe bad for philosophy, because we would have lost our tragic hero, and he's only this hero because he so bravely found his way. Plato, of course, is given an explanation. Socrates at this age, or the year 399 before Christ, he is quite an old person for the time, and he's done a lot, and he is, curious about what might happen to him in the afterlife. That, of course, is for many of us a standpoint which we probably will not take, or our clients are not prepared to take it. But that is behind, in the tradition and the writing of Plato, the decision of Socrates. He's not going away from his polis. He's not going away from the people he knows that are keen to philosophize with him. But the Greeks at that time were spotted around the Mediterranean Sea, and of course, it's possible that he would have changed his place, Athens, and be a philosopher in one of the Greek cities far away, and out of reach of the Athenians. It's also interesting for me what happened, and I only can tell that because there was this video made there and people agreed. I have not asked them for allowance to show the video, but in that public sphere here, but who would be interested in it, I could privately share it, yes. At the end, the first player of Aaron, Klaus, he had said, "I really don't understand." He said that after, if you move on, up again, before the picture actually, Regina. Yes, a little bit. Here we go. Yes. Stop. From the audience sitting next to those that have spoken in the second round, Klaus mentioned to the lady sitting opposite of him, "Also, ich verstehe das nicht." Oh, I don't understand. But the lady, it is Margaret, Grit, das kann ich in irgendeiner Weise schon noch nachvollziehen. Well, I can understand that in some way, she says. And she's, please go down now a bit, Regina. Thank you. She's pointing to this picture, stop, and she said, I can quite understand that in some way. Now, after 2 rounds of Philodrama Santé, I just made a statement. We are, and if you just go a little bit down now, I can read it from this. Yes, thank you. I read it now here from the screen. We are in 1932, turn to 1933. That's quite important in Paris. And lifting up Bakewell at the Existentialist Cafe, the 3 of us in winter coats are sitting in front of a bar in Montmartre. Aaron had traveled to Berlin with a scholarship to learn German, and he studied, in this situation, the latest German philosophy. Beauvoir had been in close contact with Aaron before. They were a couple, but he was maybe too reserved for her, it seemed, not nonconformist enough. That's my impression. Meanwhile, Simone de Beauvoir and Jean-Paul Sartre are a couple with a special contract, as you know. They had an open relationship, but it was going in a package to telling the other person, in that case, Simone to Jean-Paul, Jean-Paul to Simone, what was happening. So they were quite informed what the other people did in their relationships beside their unique one. All the 3 figures here are disappointed by this French educational system of the time, but still now to a certain extent, of equal doctrinal content. It works wildly inside Sartre. He wants to develop a philosophy of nothingness, and now he seeks to start from scratch, totally new. And where better to start than with the primal question, why is anything at all, and not rather nothing? As you know, this will be part of his great book, l'être et l'ignon, being and nothingness. In the discussion that popped up from here, Mariana connects nothing with a reflection of her morning meditations, nothingness, and the phase between inhaling and exhaling. Vivid discussion in the group, as you can imagine. Someone said, "Feel the nothingness," and Mike fails in his attempt to lure them into a shared breathing experience. And my wife Grit says, "What you can't talk about, you should keep quiet about." And Mike, or exhale, big laughter. I continued, "We are here today to make clear to ourselves the great passage through Eilenberger's portrayal of Beauvoir in the years 1933 to 43, just before the beginning of that period, the Santé scene takes place, which we have performed twice. And one could now imagine, and that's my point here, that over the years of the period 32 to 43, we repeatedly make a new scene, a new starting point for a philodrama, and in the process become attentive to how Beauvoir's philosophical position changes, develops. The year 1940 is especially promising for such an endeavor. And then I give a few hints of people who describe it. And if you don't interrupt, I tell you my fantasy. In my fantasy, the scene is at La Poueze, Beauvoir's Exodus village. Exodus is when the French fled out of Paris on the countryside in France. 2 weeks after the Nazi occupation, cafes are serving customers again. 34-year-old Wilhelm Kammler, who would 25 years later be my philosophy professor at university, is having a café au lait in front of a small bar. It's a sunny day in June. Simone, age 32, finds the only free chair is at his table. She says, "Monsieur, ce siège est libre? Is the chair free?" "Oui, madame." "Yes," he answers. He had studied with Heidegger in Marburg. She and Sartre were discussing Heidegger's version of phenomenology as feeding forward to Sartre's philosophy of le néant, nothingness. Could they have found, Kammler and Beauvoir, could they have found out that both of them were philosophers? So it would be interesting to try that out in a philodrama. And what would it be like if they then started to do philosophy together, despite the conflict of being on opposite sides in this Second World War? Would they touch the situation or the importance of the concept of situation for practical philosophy and philosophical practice and existentialism? I pause here. So as far as I can see, we are free. And in the Latin tradition, tres faciunt collegium. So we're still active. Neil might have gone to bed. At the beginning, Simone de Beauvoir has this rigid position in 33, 34. There is only Sartre and me. Together, we. And we are one. In the mentioned interview, Eilenberger hints to the mystic, Unio Mystica tradition. What is outside of us, me and Sartre, is completely unknown. Gradually, Simone de Beauvoir realizes that this has to do with the fact that she doesn't really communicate. I mean, she does, but in a very superficial way, kind of doing standards as a teacher in the classroom with others, except Sartre, and he is no other in that kind of construction. Then, of course, it's no wonder she doesn't want to reproduce the Mann, as Heidegger calls it, as in phrases like, one doesn't do that, one has to do it that way. Still very much the case in many places, not only in Germany. She wants to remain authentic, not performing a conformist life. That is Simone de Beauvoir. If we would be a great number of very vivid people here among us, we could pause here and discuss things and maybe do more workshop-like things. What I can offer and have prepared and asked Regina to do it, looking at it from my point of view, Leon de Haas last year has presented scripts for philodramas, rewriting modern philosophy as fictional philosophical practitioners in action. Can the philosophy practitioners in training, in order to practice the respective style of different philosophies, a point that was made by Ora again, make this the starting point for philodramas to be realized? Now, the excerpt from the video recording, please go ahead. The title is Contemporary Socrates, and it is probably the last action that our friend Leon did. Now, listen to him.
Now we go to Edmund Husserl. Now the man at the bench is Husserl. He worked in the same times at Nelson, also in Germany. They knew each other. They didn't like each other. They didn't like each other's philosophies. Philosophy, also with Husserl, philosophy is philosophizing, but not a dialogical relationship, but self-perception. What happens at this bench is curious from in the eyes of philosophical practitioners. So we are always looking for dialogue, and Husserl was not. Excuse me. Nancy starts telling a story. So not Husserl starts the philosophizing, but Nancy starts telling her story. But now, to Husserl, what this situation, do this back, this situation in the park at the bench, and also the story Nancy tells, they seem to be real. We think they are real. Normally we do that. Where we are, what we see, what we hear, what we perceive and experience is real. But Husserl says that's just what we think that is real. We learned it. It's our daily view, our daily opinions. It's not really what this situation is, and what Nancy is, and what her story is. So he said we must sweep away all this, what we think the situation is and the story is. We have to clean our mind. So that is, there's no conversation anymore. Nancy has told her story, and now Husserl is busy with his self-reflection, and he is perceiving himself. First of all, he cleans his mind. Oh no these thoughts about this park, this bench, this woman, this story. He says, when I have cleansed my mind, now this bench, this park, this Nancy, this story are just phenomena of my perception, of my experience. I don't know how they really are. I only know them, I only perceive them. They are only present to me as perceptions and experiences, as phenomena of my mind, of my consciousness, of my perception, of my experience. Now we should think that with this free mind, Husserl would start to talk with the woman. No, he doesn't do that. He concentrates, he focuses on these phenomena of his mind. And he asks, what is this phenomena? For instance, there are many phenomena now, right here. So he takes one. For instance, this phenomenon, mild autism in Nancy's story. And he takes this phenomenon and asks himself, what is autism, and what kinds of autism are there? And then he thinks, and he have examples. He reminds him to all kinds of examples, and then he says, oh, in this example, he has 5 examples, for instance, of what is called autism, and then he thinks, no, these are accidental properties, not essential properties. And then he takes the second example in his mind and says, okay, these are the essential, these are the essential. And so he does do it with every example. And at the end, he said, now get rid of those all accidental properties, and now I have the essential properties of autism. Now I know what is autism, without any interaction with Nancy. Fortunately to us, Nancy is still on the bench. She did not leave. Nancy is just a phenomenon in Husserl's perception. And what Husserl is doing is uncover the pure phenomenon and the pure I, the pure ego. At the end, I said, hey, how is it possible that I am able to see the essential properties of autism? This is possible because my ego is not just the ego that is part of the world. No, there is also this ego that is pure, free from those concrete perceptions and thoughts and habits, etc. he could have tried, we could say, from the perspective of Socrates and Nelson, he could have tried to have Nancy do it by herself. That could be possible, that he tried, that he supported Nancy in doing such self-perception, such self-reflection. But Husserl did not do it. With Husserl, philosophy is about describing generally shared properties of the phenomenon, and in particular the phenomenon I, ego, self, subject. One of the few who criticized this position, this attitude of Husserl's was Merleau-Ponty. He said, "Yeah, why should you focus on this phenomenon of autism? There is something happening between us, between Nancy and me." Marcel Merleau-Ponty would say, when I felt some sadness. Her question at the end of her story, that was a question of sadness. And I she was sad, and I felt the sadness. But the sadness I felt was not in me, it was between us. My sadness happened because of Nancy's sadness, and because she told me, she expresses her sadness. So this was a very important correction, so to say, by Merleau-Ponty. And this correction of Merleau-Ponty brings us to Husserl. Yes, by the way, Husserl is not Husserl's philosophy is not dialogical. It's a monologue with yourself. In short, Husserl in Socrates' shoes, our perception of Nancy is biased, like her perception of the situation at home. To me, the philosopher, Nancy is how she appears to me. She is my perception and experience. What I do is clear my perception from the biased thoughts. The pure I, being present by myself. This realizing the pure I. Realizing being present by myself. And then he is focusing on one of the phenomena in this field of phenomena. And he's trying to describe the essence of this phenomenon. Well,
Mike, your microphone is muted. Okay, great.
All right. I remember what we experienced in nearby Torino at the Brando retreat when we dealt with Levinas, and some of what has been here said, that there's some importance in what is the sadness in between the two people. Yes, that's of great importance. So that was the switch. Looking at the time, I'm a bit inclined to say in this small group, that's probably it. By the by, of course, Husserl is not the first philosopher dealing with phenomenology. Hegel's phenomenology of the spirit is well characterized in a new book by Jürgen Kaube of 2020, of course in German, Hegel's World, a little bit on. And there's another excellent scholar from the Constance School, His name is Pirmin Steckerler. He's at the University of Leipzig and wrote a good commentary, which he called Ein dialogischer Kommentar, a dialogical commentary on this great book of Hegel. And there's also a colleague from the practical philosophy movement who sees himself as a modern type phenomenologist. And he is not very well known out of his inner circles. His name is Gernot Böhme, but his co-worker, Garling, she is the president of the German Society of Philosophical Practitioners. Very often, the offsprings of university teaching and investigations make their way into the agenda of philopraxis activities, but it's also possible the other way around. And this happens in 2021 and 22 with this book, which I mentioned, Wolfram Eilenberger, The Fire of Freedom. We have started to discuss this biographically grounded history of an important part of the 20th century philosophy early in this year in our literature group, and a seminar at the University of Constance will follow in the February of 2022, next year. Now comes something which will take some more time, and so I leave it to you just to read it. If you can go back to the last part of all, then we will see just to the very end of this long, long text, page 55 or so, not up, but down. Thank you, Regina. More and more, 50.
What?
Just on the bottom. Yes,
okay.
Just on the bottom is the table of references and also my email. That's it. This text here is available under this, and you can find it in, whoops, sorry, a little up so that we can see the link. Yeah, that's it. And people might find that in the video when it will be out, so they can look back to this one. And it has been just published in the Constance online publication system. Sergey, is this fair? Is it a good position that we just... Yes. Thank you very much, Regina. Here we go. Very fine, Pia. It's a good point. Doing philosophy together in real life might also be not without disturbances, but of course they are of another kind than we, or I, have found them today, with having these great problems, being there already, being on time, and having a chat, and then being twice in it because I couldn't see that I was making an effort, and that was too much, and then it ruled me out, and with the help of you, Regina, I came back. Thanks for your great kindness that you waited for me. I would have been really sad if I would have missed out on what I could have.
No, it's okay. Sorry guys, the first links are not workable, so I gave you the other ones that are in the bottom of the chat. So I can stop sharing. Yes, Mike?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, it is goodbye for everybody.
If you don't want to take your word, of course you can.
Thank you, Mike. Very big work, and for me it's like a symposium. There's many things, many situations, and give many deep and different experience of understanding what is philosophy itself, what is our experience in this philosophical situations and philosophical thinking itself. Thank you very much.
I'm happy to hear that, because you also can see probably better than when I was invited to the online round table in Chelyabinsk, when we did not have proper standard philosophical topics, but young Greta as the hero, so to speak, the Socrates in our philodrama. And there also you, Regina, really played such an important role for getting across this. We also had, I remember, a lot of technical problems. I think I wasn't visible in Chelyabinsk. Here, not so many years later, we must say, yes, I think it is a good way of coming together. And I expressed this in another situation in this online conference. It makes people from far away countries like India, I'm just thinking of Yamini, to take a part in our worldwide philosophical discussions. And also Narelle, Archidiakona, she expressed that she was so feeling alone in good old Australia. And I really was deeply moved to be able to move her here, to see her, contact her, experience what she had done in so many different jobs, as the Australian would probably call it, professions. She is really a grand old dame of philosophical practice, and not many people were aware of that. And also that is something. And it was good that I personally could take a leave from Leon, whom I had met at one of Ran Lahav's retreats there in Brando. And yes, who was in charge of the German society, who gave me the possibility to have this Socrates video done. So it was really also an act of saying thank you to him. And I think there's parallel between his philosophizing to the very end and Socrates.
Thank you for this memory.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Mike,
Can I add
Taisia.
something?
Yeah, Taisia.
Yeah, thank you. You know, while you were presenting, I was thinking, it's like, okay, what's the point of it? I mean, how can I personally apply it? And it's like drama naturally should be something about, I mean, not drama necessarily, but just something that involves bodily expression and emotional expression. It's like how it should be combined with thinking, I mean, with criticism, with the reflection, with this. And you know, at the very end of your presentation, I finally got the point. It's like it shouldn't be, as I get it for myself at least, that it shouldn't be happening everything, all of it at the same time. That it's like the first part is when you're rewriting it, and while you're rewriting it, you're just reflecting, you're thinking, you're criticizing, you're problematizing all this thing, and you check whether it goes well or not, whether you like understanding well such and such a philosopher, such and such character. But when you finish writing, that's it. I mean, the critical part is done. And when you're playing it, you just live in it. It's not a time for thinking or for criticizing. It's just a part of for living, feeling, being. And I guess that's a very nice combination. It's like that everything should have a right time. Yeah, so thank you for this, for making me understand this in the very last moment.
This comes to me as a great surprise at the end of a session, which was, as you could say, a hard giving birth to a child for me.
Yeah, true.
You're welcome. And I encourage you, if you experiment with it, do make videos and feed them in the next session. And then just let them impress you and go into reflecting, criticism, and whatever it is. It happened to Neil, by the by, when I started to exchange and to arrange things between Regina, myself, and Neil. He went on making new proposals, and some of it is in the script, and you can look it up. And as we experience it now, yes, it is wise to first reproduce it, maybe, and then do more freestyle and criticism and new own ideas, to having that in the background. Feel free to philosophize about, I call it related, a related topic, not the same topic probably, but that's how we in philosophical practice work. We have philosophical texts in the background, and text alone is probably not so impressive as it is when you speak out of it. Much of what David said about corporal actions, I remember you with the 2 glasses. It was incredible. I would never have had that kind of ideas, but looking at what you did there really impressed me a lot. And go on, combine things, and it need not be water, as you said in the end. We also can play with other things in our glasses, modestly.
Yeah, true. Thank you very, very much, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Hi, dear.
Thank you very, very much, Mike.
Wow. Many things come together.